Artists have been painting with pastels since the Renaissance. By the 18th century, pastels had grown in popularity, and they were favored by many Impressionists during the 19th century, particularly Claude Monet and Edgar Degas. Many of their pastel paintings look as fresh today as the day they were painted. Today, with the increase in pastel choices and the developments in surfaces, pastel painting has never been more popular. The history of pastel begins as a medium that was not considered worthy of the true works of art. Pastels were used in the preparation stages for sketches and studies that would lead to the creation of the artwork with other, more suitable mediums. Pastels become more relevant when the drawing becomes an art form of its own, and not an auxiliary to painting. The most important figures that helped in shaping pastels as a medium during the Renaissance were Leonardo DaVinci, Raphael, Michelangelo, only to name a few, whose many studies and sketches are still preserved today in museums. As we move to the 17th century, a very important name to remember is that of Rosalba Carriera, an artist from Venice. Her portraits found huge success during the reign of Louis XV of France, and Carriera was the first female painter to initiate a new style in the art community, which persisted for nearly a century. She was known for her portraits and dragging the sides of white chalk across an underdrawing of darker tones to capture the shimmering texture of lace and satin. Carriera's contemporary was another important portrait artist, Maurice Quentin de la Tour. His works look so realistic that it seems as if the person depicted in them will walk right out of the painting. His works include portraits of such relevant figures as Voltaire, Rousseau, Louis XV, and Madame de Pompadour. Besides Carriera and de la Tour, other artists that influenced the transformation of pastels into a serious and independent art medium were Jean-Antoine Watteau, Jean-Honoré Fragonard, and François Boucher. In the 19th century, Claude Monet's impression, Soleil Levant, started the Impressionism movement in the art world. Impressionists were characterized by violating the rules of academical painting and their particular brushstrokes, which created an illusion of movement. Edgar Degas, alongside with Monet, is one of the famous pastel artists, thanks to whom today even a layman has heard about pastels. And to add another female name to the list, we have to mention Marie Cassatt, whose works, like Rosalba Carriera's in her time, were characterized by a feminine and delicate nature. There are many more world-famous artists who used pastels in their work, such as Pablo Picasso and Francisco Serra. Today, thanks to the ever-increasing popularity of this medium, there are many famous artists that prefer to work almost exclusively in pastels. Here are just a few names that shape today's pastel world. Vicente Romero Redondo and his sun-filled paintings of women, Javad Soleimanpour, famous for his portraits, Maggie Price and Richard McKinley, both famous for their landscapes, Dawn Emerson and her experimental approach to pastels, and many more. Today, not only are pastels used in creating traditional artwork, but they are also used in other creative fields, such as illustration. And the development of new pastel kinds provides new interesting possibilities and ways to explore the medium for today's artist.